Welcome to Mr. V Teaching Math. This is the second in a series of lessons on the topic of translating English into math. This is one of the more challenging lessons I teach, simply because English is so complex. And I don't really have a great way to teach it yet. The best idea I have is to show a whole bunch of examples, ways that you can make the transition. Practice and experience are the only good ideas I have at this point. Knowing English well and lots of practice translating it into math. If there's anybody out there with a better way of teaching it, I'm all ears. I'm going to focus on the four big ones: sum, difference, product, and quotient during these examples. So let's begin. Here's our first example. A number increased by 8 is 10. Well, the is the equal sign. I'm going to start there. We got 10. All right, that's easy enough. Increased by means to add. 8, that's all right. A number, okay, some unknown number, something that I don't know. This is what we use a variable for. And since the question does not specifically tell me what variable I have to use, I can pick. So in this case, I'm just going to use x. So that's our first example. Now, one thing to point out, this is adding. When you have adding, if I were to write it like this would also be correct. This is actually a little closer to the English explanation, but this is the same thing because it's adding. And that doesn't work with all questions. It's going to come up in a later example. Our second example. 2 more than a number is 7. Is the equal sign, we have the 7. 2 more than a number. The number would be x, and 2 more, we're going to add 2. Again, because it's adding, I could write it this way, or I could write it this way. Again, it doesn't really matter. Both of these are exactly the same. Remember, not true for all questions, which we'll see in a minute. Twice a number is 8. There's my is, there's the 8. Twice a number. There's my number. Now, it's multiplication. Remember, I'm a lazy mathematician. I did not write the multiplication. I could write it like this if I need to. Notice again, that's why you have to have a funky X, a different sort of X, a cursive X, an italics X, because those two could easily get confused. It's multiplication. I can actually change the order if I wanted to. I could write it like this. This would also be correct. However, the convention in most math is that we put the number in front of the variable. So this really is the better way to do it because you're going to be more familiar with this as we go forth into other forms of algebra. When we start writing things like this, it'll be more familiar if you keep the number in front of the x. These are not wrong, but this will be more helpful in the future. Next example. 1/3 of a number is 1. Is 1. Now this is where it gets tricky. In the last series of examples, it didn't matter what order I put it in. In this one it does, because it's going to be division. Division and subtraction, the order matters a lot, so you have to be very careful about what you put where. 1/3 of a number. I'm going to divide it by 3. I could write it like this, x divided by 3. This would be wrong. That's wrong. Doesn't work. Almost exactly the same question would be to go 1/3 of a number is 1. I could write it like this. This and that are actually the same thing. I can divide something by 3, or I can multiply, there's a multiplication here, by 1/3, and I'll get the same thing. Our fifth example. 1/2 of a number decreased by 3 is 2. Is 2. 1/2 of a number. All right, I'm going to take my unknown number, I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm going to decrease it by 3. Again, I could also do this. 1/2 of a number decreased by 3 is 2. These would also be the same. You can multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. You'll get the same result. Next example. 5 times a number increased by 8 is 48. Is 48. 5 times a number. Remember, lazy mathematician leaves out the multiplication symbol. 5 times x plus 8. Again, because it's multiplying and dividing, I could actually mix this up a fair bit if I really wanted to. This would actually be the same thing, because the multiplication, these two are still being multiplied and those are being added. This is the conventional way of writing it, with the variable here, with the number right in front of the multiplying number right in front of the variable, with the single the digit by itself behind. Now we come to some of the words that you have to know. The sum of a number and 5 is 8. And if you go back to our list here, you'll notice that each of these is in bold and underlined. And that was because we had written put brackets around the question if bold and underlined. This is one of the ones that you have to put in brackets. The sum of a number and 5 is 8. Well, is 8. So I've got a number plus 5, because sum means to add. And I'm going to put it in brackets. Now, in this question, the brackets actually don't matter. They don't actually have any meaning, but get in the habit. Again, be in the habit so that you remember that sum needs brackets. Now, what are the brackets for? Well, if you remember from our lessons in BEDMAS, these brackets teach us that that has to be done first. When you see the word sum in the English language, the way the English language works, that means whatever they're going to sum is going to end up having to be done before any other operations in the question. Some more examples. There's my is equal to 3. The difference of a number and 7. A number minus 7. Again, in brackets, even though in this question it doesn't matter. Difference, be in the habit of putting in brackets. The product of 5 and a number is 20. Here's the is, there's 20. The product of 5 and a number. Product means I'm going to multiply. So it's going to be 5. This time I'll just use a different variable because I can. And it needs to be in brackets. Again, this question, it's not absolutely necessary, but we want that habit of thinking that when you see product, it needs to be multiplied before other things. Next example. The quotient of a number and 5 increased by 2 is 11. Is 11. All right. The quotient of a number and 5. Quotient means division. A number. I'll use y. A quotient of a number and 5, in brackets, increased by 2. Now, in this particular question, the brackets actually aren't going to make a difference because division, if you think of a BEDMAS, division comes before addition anyways. But there are questions where these brackets will matter, where it's going to make a difference. Okay, moving on to one of the ones that becomes a problem most often. English is not an easy language. 1 less than 7 times a number is 34. I'm going to do it wrong first. Many students start here and just start reading all the way across. 1 less than 7 times a number is 34. This is not correct. 1 less than what? 1 taken away from this. You're not taking the 1 away. This is being taken away. Where you put the subtraction symbol matters. You have to take 1 away, which means 1 less than 7 times a number is 34. 1 less than means I'm subtracting from something else. So the English language does not match the way it's going to be written mathematically. This is wrong. This is correct. Watch for that. 1 less than. That one has to go here, not there. Another example. 3 more than 3 times a number is 27. This is really the way it should be written mathematically. Now, because this is addition, it doesn't matter as much, because adding, if I were to write it like this, it's actually still going to work, because adding, you can switch it around and it doesn't matter. You must not do this with subtraction or division. Subtraction and division have to be done exactly correctly. Addition and multiplication, there's a little more flexibility. And here's a tricky one. 3 is equal. 3 equals the quotient of a number and 9. Many students are not used to putting the answer, if you will, on this side of the equal sign. And that is perfectly acceptable. This works. Now, if you were to do it this way, that's not wrong either. Because the equal sign is still in the middle and you've got the right pieces on each side. Notice, however, I cannot change this order because this is division. You can't mess with the order of division. And there are a series of examples how to translate English into math. And hopefully that will help you get started.